Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Francis Adate, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari approves postponement of 2023 census. Federal government warns of heavy rainfall, says planes may overshoot runways and bridges get washed off. Plus, Brazil's Bolsonaro testify over Capitol's riots. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Who has approved the postponement of the 2023 Population and Housing Census, early scheduled for May 3 through 7, 2023, to a date to be determined by the incoming administration. The President gave the approval after meeting with some members of the Federal Executive Council and the Chairman of the National Population Commission, Nasir Issa Kwara, and his team at the Presidential Villa in Abuja on Friday, April 28, 2023. This is contained in a press statement sent by them in their preparation for and implementation of the now postponed census, commended the methodology being put in place by the NPC to conduct accurate and reliable census. In a separate development, Nigeria's leader, President Muhammadu Buhari, has sworn in 6 new permanent secretaries in the Federal Civil Service at the Council Chambers of the State House, Abuja, within the course of the week. The swearing-in, which took place shortly before the commencement of this week's federal Asanye, Cross River, Lamuwa Ibrahim from Gombe State, Yakubu Mata from Kano State, Oloruntola Michael from Ogun State, and Richard Felengawa from Taraba State. While reading the citation of the new officers, the special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, said the event marked the culmination of a week-long pre-qualification exercise for directors by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Meanwhile, presidential colors used in order of battle were retired. The ceremony witnessed the issuance of new colors to 28 newly established and operational units in the Nigerian Army, bringing the number of units to 81 from 53. The presentation of color ceremony, which was preceded by a military parade, saw Buhari adorned in a full military uniform with his rank of Major General and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces clearly specified in what will be his last major outing with the insignia. The retirement and presentation of military colors is a traditional ceremony practiced by armies of Commonwealth nations every 10 years to mark an anniversary or event in the history of a particular regiment.
In the fighting power, as a result of the procurement of equipment and mission-specific training, the Army was empowered to rejig its operations. Accordingly, the Army has restructured the conduct of its operations. 2015 had enabled troops to take the battle to the terrorists and criminals, particularly in the northeast, resulting in the recapture of territories hitherto held by the insurgents. This has no doubt boosted troops' morale and enhanced their zeal to discharge their constitutional mandate. Furthermore, in line with my resolve to cater for the families of deceased personnel, Indian Army Scholarship from 2015 to date.
Meanwhile, the federal government has warned heavy rainfall this year's rainy season and other weather conditions are likely to cause major disruptions in the country, which will affect citizens' health and infrastructure in key sectors. According to a technical committee of experts set up by the federal government, this is due to the severity of the weather and lack of preparedness by relevant agencies. Roads and bridges and other key infrastructures, as well as communities, may be washed away, while disease epidemics may break out in many communities. The warning was given in the 2023 Climate-Related Disaster Preparedness and Mitigation Strategies to ministries, departments, and agencies. Reports say the aviation sector will not be left out, as airplanes may skid off runways and cause major disasters. The warning is contained in a document prepared and made available to newsmen by the panel, which is chaired by the National Emergency Management Agency of a Center of Excellence for Environmental Restoration in Ogoniland, Rivers State. The president also laid the foundation for the Ogoni Power Project and a 100-bed specialist hospital in Uyakara, Kangana local government area of Rivers State. Buhari, who joined the groundbreaking ceremony, virtually said the projects are in fulfillment of his administration's pledge to provide succor for years of environmental degradation in Ogoniland. The projects, which are components of the solution, in a separate development, the federal government, through the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, has said that fuel subsidy removal is yet to be suspended. A statement by the Minister's Special Advisor, Media and Communications, Yunusa Abdullahi, indicated that the federal government planned to expand the Subsidy Removal Committee to include state governors and teams from the incoming administration. The statement, which is in response to reports in the media, further noted that the government has not suspended the removal, but has rather expanded the Subsidy Removal Committee to include teams from the incoming administration and state governors. Recall that in an earlier report, the Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed said the National Economic Council agreed that the subsidy must be removed now rather than later, as the nation could not afford it anymore. Meanwhile, the federal government has declared that it had commenced the disconnection of some power firms from the national grid as a result of their non-adherence to the electricity market rules. Although it did not name the affected power plants, the government explained that the Nigerian electricity supply industry was governed by rules which were absolutely necessary for the viability and sustainability of the sector. These rules, according to the federal government, were sacrosanct and must be complied with by all existing or new players in the sector, which include the electricity generation, transmission. The federal government, through the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, has signed a deal with a United States-based firm, Atlanta Global Resources Incorporated, for the construction of a $15 billion rail project that will stretch across all 9 Niger Delta states. The deal was signed at the NDDC Public-Private Partnership PPP Summit in Lagos with the theme Rewind to Rebirth. Speaking of the fund, the massive developmental challenges in the Niger Delta. According to the minister, a plan was fully on for the Niger Delta region to optimize the benefits from its abundant natural resources, especially oil and gas, which had contributed significantly to the national economy and development. He regretted that the region has faced many challenges such as environmental degradation, poverty, unemployment, insecurity. The People's Democratic Party (PDP) has called on the international community to impose a visa ban on President Muhammadu Buhari and his family over what they claim is the Nigerian leader's role in the rigging of the 2023 presidential elections. PDP's comment came a day after a statement by Garba Shehu, presidential spokesperson, said that the opposition failed to win the exercise due to its non-tactical abilities. In a statement by its National Publicity Secretary Debo Logunaba on Friday, the PDP described Buhari's comment as unfortunate, reckless, and unprecedented conduct and subject. The opposition party also claimed that the election was won by its candidate Atiku Abubakar, which is why the party is already at the tribunal with the prospect of reclaiming the mandate. Meanwhile, the Labour Party has tackled President Buhari over his position on the outcome of the February 25 presidential election, claiming that Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress APC did not win the election. In a statement in reply to the president, Labour Party's acting National Secretary Obiora Ifor said Buhari's position on the outcome of the said election was false, untrue, and it is not a true reflection of what played out during the election. The statement noted that what played out in Adamawa was a miniature of what played out all over the states during the February 25 and March 18 elections in Nigeria, stressing that the case of Adamawa was given huge publicity and attention. Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has called for unity and a new Nigeria. Obi spoke on Friday at the second edition of the Handshake Across Nigeria themed Building Bridges for a New Nigeria, organized by Nzuko Umunna, an Igbo sociocultural group. A former Anambra State governor noted that a Nigeria where people who are sons of nobody would be great, live well, have a job, and earn a living was possible. He either noted that the new Nigeria will not come with ease, as those he claimed some week of Rivers State is asking Nigerians to rally around President-elect Bola Tinubu, saying the time for politics is over. According to Wike, elections has come and gone, the winner has emerged, and therefore it is necessary for all Nigerians to give him the necessary support for the interest of Nigeria. Wike, who made the statement after meeting with Tinubu at the Defense House in Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, who also re-echoed his Rivers counterpart's comment. We move now to the judiciary, where the President of the National and State House of Assembly elections in Lagos. Reports say the new panels, dubbed Panel 2 and 3, will commence sitting next week at the State High Court sitting in Tafewa Balewa Square on Lagos Island. Panel 1 will maintain sitting at the Rosaline Omotosho Courthouse in Ikeja. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court, Abuja, has dismissed the suit filed by Aisha Dahiru Ahmed, candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the last Adamawa governorship election. Dahiru Ahmed, better known as Binani, had sought for judicial review of the decision of the Independent National Electoral Commission to reverse her earlier announcement as winner of the election by the state's resident electoral commissioner, Hudu Yunusa Ari. Following the motion for discontinuance, Justice Inyangeko reminded Sharif that an order was given on the last adjourned date directing him to address the court on whether the court had the jurisdiction to entertain the case or not. In a related development, the Federal High Court is linked to Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. Justice Nicholas Owibo held that Section 308 of the 1999 Constitution prevents the institution of any criminal or civil case against a governor or the president. According to reports, the properties are in Lagos, Abuja. Motion filed by EFCC counsel Rotimi Oyedepo, senior advocate of Nigeria. On revenue generation, the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) has announced that it has extended the deadline for the filing of value-added tax (VAT) for the month of April 2023. The FIRS chairman Mohammed Nami said in a statement that the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) has notified taxpayers that it has graciously. He called on taxpayers to make sure that they adhere strictly to the new dates, as there would be penalties for defaulters. Taxpayers. The exclusion of its members in the recent 40% pay rise for federal workers by the federal government is unfair. Speaking to newsmen, Kasu described the move by the government as a plot to create confusion and noted that lecturers and other workers in colleges of education had their last increase in salary in 2010, which was 13 years ago. The body also commended the pay rise for civil servants whom it described as the drivers of government policies, but noted that it was appalled at government's decision to exclude some categories of workers, including lecturers and other workers in a tertiary institution. Still in education, the National Examinations Council, NECO, has rescheduled the 2023 National Common Entrance Examinations, NCEE, to Saturday, 3rd June. In a third statement, NECO spokesman Aziz Sani announced the rescheduling of the exam, blaming the decision on the low registration rate. The examination, which admits candidates into the federal unity colleges across the federation, ought to have commenced on Saturday, April 29th, as earlier scheduled. According to Sani, states with low registration will be given the opportunity to register their candidates for the examination. He urged all candidates, parents, guardians, schools and relevant stakeholders to take note of the new date for the examination, while stating that the registration of more candidates will continue till the new date of the examination. Area had its first flight operation. The governor of Ebonyi State, David Umahi, said the new edifice, believed to be strategically located, which has the potential of turning around the economic fortunes of Ebonyi and adjoining states, would be commissioned by President Buhari in less than 2 weeks. The landing of the first 2 sets of flights operated by LP served as a test operation to signal the commencement of several months of construction on the airport, now to be known as the President Muhammadu Buhari International Airport. And still to come in the news, cash shortages in Q1 to weaken Nigeria's growth in 2023. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of the news stories. Instead, from Africa, where Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara has pointed out the resilient third State of the Nation address to the members of Parliament and senators at the Sofitel Abidjan, the head of state stressed that in the face of global inflation, the Ivorian government has taken measures to maintain this upward trend. According to him, Côte d'Ivoire has supported milers to the tune of 62 billion CFA francs, including 2 billion to strengthen the food sector due to the rise of the price of wheat as a result of the Russian-Ukraine war. He added that for fuel, 725 billion CFA francs in state subsidies had been. Still in Africa, survivors of a massacre in northern Burkina Faso have described an hours-long ordeal in which men in army uniforms carried out brutal and arbitrary killings, including women who were carrying their babies on their backs. Recall that the bloodbath unfolded on April 20th in the village of Kama, a part of the country that has been badly hit by jihadists. Speaking to newsmen, regional prosecutor Lamine Kabora said about 60 people were killed by assailants dressed in army uniforms, may have been killed. In the meantime, Sudan evacuees have expressed fear for those left behind. According to a Saudi Foreign Ministry statement, the arrivals represented more than 50 countries, ranging from the Philippines to Zimbabwe and from Ireland to Nicaragua. Meanwhile, an evacuee Wissam Mustafa said he had the chance to leave, but expressed sadness that his sisters may not be able to leave. Meanwhile, the second evacuation flight rescuing UK nationals from war-torn Sudan has landed in Cyprus. Reports say the passengers and further 39 from an earlier scheduled flight yesterday are expected to be given the chance to fly to the UK from Larnaca Airport later, according to reports. A Foreign Office spokesperson told newsmen that between 230 and 240 people were being evacuated so far. On a foreign scene, the United States officials have revealed that the Islamic State group mastermind believed to have plotted the devastating August 26, 2021 bombing at Kabul airport has been killed by Afghanistan's ruling Taliban. Reports say the bombing killed 170 civilians and 13 U.S. soldiers as people were trying to flee the country as the Taliban took control. Meanwhile, U.S. officials said they had determined through intelligence gathering and monitoring of the region that the leader has died, though they did not disclose further details on how they had learned that he was responsible for the bombing. Meanwhile, a second citizen of the United States has reportedly died in Sudan during brutal fighting between rival military factions and violence. It did not provide much detail on how the American died, but said the fighting had subsided. Meanwhile, the Joe Biden administration has been under fire for its response to rescuing over 16,000 citizens trapped in the war-torn country, with critics drawing comparisons to the chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal in August 2021. Still on the foreign scene, Colombian President Gustavo Petro has called for the resignation of his entire cabinet as the government struggles to get legislations approved by the government. According to reports, the cabinet shakeup marks the most serious crisis within Pedro's government in his tenure as president. Meanwhile, after nearly 9 months in power, Pedro has been unable to usher in the profound reforms in labor laws, healthcare, pensions, and the judiciary that he promised during his campaign. Away from that, France's Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne has pledged to cut unemployment and make industry greener as she sought to turn the page on months of unrest over a contentious pension reform. Bond has been the unpopular figure this month, despite repeated mass protests. According to reports, she invoked a controversial executive power to push the bill through Parliament without a vote last month, and is now under more pressure than ever to find a majority to back any future legislation. In his huge, long arm, meanwhile, Bond laid out the details of a 100-day target to relaunch Macron's second term in office. Time President Joe Biden greeted his South Korean counterpart Yoon Suk-yeol for a state visit at which they announced a beefed-up U.S. nuclear shield for Washington's vital ally in the face of an aggressive North Korea. A military honor guard and hundreds of guests marched outside the White House, where Yoon and his wife Kim Kyung-hee arrived for a day of pomp and ceremony and far-reaching strategic discussion on the Korean War 7 decades ago. Meanwhile, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has cancelled his planned appearances due to a stomach bug less than 3 weeks before Turkey's crunch election. The 69-year-old leader's announcement came in the heat of a hard-fought campaign in what is widely viewed as Turkey's most important election of its post-Ottoman era. Erdogan had 3 appearances in the central Anatolian provinces planned for the week. Elsewhere, former Brazilian far-right President Jair Bolsonaro appeared before federal police within the course of the week to testify over anti-government riots by his supporters in January. Bolsonaro is being investigated for his election. Bolsonaro, who returned to Brazil in late March after spending 3 months in Florida, has always denied his involvement in the riots. Reports say he arrived at the federal police headquarters in Brasilia in a vehicle with tinted windows. Lula, who previously led Brazil, In the meantime, Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky says Russia must be prevented from using nuclear power to blackmail his country and the world at large. Zelensky stated this at the 37th anniversary of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The Ukraine president in a tweet said Chernobyl disaster has left a huge scar on Ukraine, describing it as the worst nuclear disaster in history. The tragedy led to terrible consequences that went far beyond the borders of modern Ukraine. Still on the foreign scene, Sweden has been criticized by Norway after one of its research rockets malfunctioned and landed in its neighbor's territory. The Swedish Space Corporation SSC said the rocket, which reached an altitude of 250 kilometers, that's 155 miles, was launched from the Esrange and no material damaged, adding that investigation was ongoing. We move to business, where shares in First Republic have tumbled nearly 30% to close at a new record low amid renewed fears the U.S. bank could be the next to collapse. The sale have extended steep declines from a day earlier after the bank said customers had pulled $100 billion in deposits from the bank in March. Founded in San Francisco in 1985, the bank is known for having a big mortgage lending business and a large stable of wealthy clients, many of whom had saved more money with the bank than would fears of a wider crisis, adding that its shares have shed 95% of their value in a matter of weeks. Meanwhile, raw sugar futures extended their upward momentum to above 26.5 cents per pound, the highest in more than 11 years, amid deepening concerns over weak supply. Sugar output in India, the world's second biggest producer, was revised downward again to 32.8 million tons this marketing year, compared to earlier estimates of 36 million tons, largely due to a lack of adequate rainfall in the key Maharashtra region. Meanwhile, sugarcane production was projected to rise in top supplier Brazil. However, growers have allocated larger volumes of the crop to more profitable biofuel blending as the end of tax exemptions for gasoline in the country is set to raise demand for lower tax sugarcane ethanol. In the meantime, Fitch Solutions, the research arm of credit rating agency Fitch Ratings, has predicted that Nigeria's economy will grow by only 2.3% this year, down from 3.1% in 2022. Fitch stated this in its Africa Monthly Outlook report released on its website on Tuesday. The credit rating agency also forecast that Nigeria's crude output will stagnate at an average of 1.5 MN per barrel in 2023, following a record decline of 14.0% in 2022. Finch also said that the central bank's decision to demonetize high-value banknotes had created acute cash shortages in Q1 of 2023, severely disrupting commercial operations and preventing payments. And still to come in the news, Man United to offer Kane £300,000 a week contract. To stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if you and so much more. Advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian. From issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria. I remain committed.
security, education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by cross them. Our governors have to share police power with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Ibro.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
A program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Glad to welcome you back to Spectrum TV Recap News Stories. We continue starting from the health news, where the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) says it has received assurance from the Serum Institute of India that Nigeria will receive the R21 Mojisola Day, revealed this during the commemoration of the World Malaria Day, and noted that the agency had granted the R21 malaria vaccine provisional approval. According to her, NAFDAC's Joint Vaccine Review Committee recognized the importance of effective malaria vaccine, disclosing that the R21 vaccine has 75% protection. Minister of Health Dr. Sagia Hanere cited the effectiveness of the vaccine, the reason for NAFDAC granting provisional approval. Still in health, the Director General National Institute for Cancer Research and Treatment, Professor Usman Aliyu, has assured Nigerians of improved cancer research and treatment. He said this in Abuja while congratulating the Muslim Ummah for successfully completing the Ramadan fast, which culminated in the Eid al-Fitr celebration over the weekend. He especially congratulated cancer patients, their relatives, doctors working in the cancer space, health advocates and NGOs, and assured them of the Institute's preparedness to improve cancer research and treatment in the days. According to him, cancer is treatable and curable, especially when detected early. Move to sports, where British #1 Emma Raducanu has withdrawn from the Madrid Open with a hand injury hours before her first round match. The 20-year-old was set to face Bulgaria's Victoria Tomova on Wednesday. Raducanu's withdrawal means she's almost certain to drop out of the world's top 100. The 2021 US Open champion has been hindered by a wrist problem in recent months. According to reports, Raducanu's Grand Prix in Stuttgart this month, after which she dropped to 85 in the world rankings. Still in sports, a man has died shortly after completing the London Marathon in under 3 hours. Organizers of the event said Steve Shanks, 45-year-old from Bingham, Nottinghamshire, died suddenly while traveling home on Saturday to hear of Shanks' death. They added that Shanks was a very experienced runner who took part in the event on Sunday, completing the 26.2-mile as 42.1-kilometer distance in 2 hours and 53 minutes. Meanwhile, Manchester United will offer Harry Kane a £300,000 a week contract to join the club this summer. While he presently plays for the Tottenham, United have begun to pressure a deal for the captain of Spurs. According to reports, with the successful completion of these, Kane will become one of the highest paid earners at Manchester United. Kane will see this current deal increase with Spurs, but 24 of those have come in the Premier League compared to Rashford's 15 also. Manchester United coach Erik ten Hag is on the plan to bring in a new forward in the summer. On our entertainment news, the Mainz club is back for its 4th season, this time on Prime Video. Recall that the show, popularly known as T3 seasons, with some holiday special editions. The show stars Ayola Ayilola, Baj Adebule, Evha Erwara, and Daniel Etimefionge in lead roles. Meanwhile, Sharon Oja, Sola Sobowale, Adebukunla Oladipupo, Nengi Adeoki, and Shafi Bello are some of the female characters on the show. Still on entertainment, Nigerian star Davido has extended his run at the top of the UK Afrobeats chart with his hit single Unavailable. In the latest installment of the UK Afrobeats chart, Unavailable, featuring South African singer Moses Keys, retained the top spot for a 3rd week. Davido released his 4th album, Timeless, on March 31st, 2023, and the highly anticipated album has reportedly broken multiple streaming records. Meanwhile, Unavailable, which is one of the lead singles of the album, is dominating charts both domestically and internationally. Lastly, on our entertainment news, Bjorn Stevens' The Kujus Again is out and breaking box office records in a matter of days. Since debuting in cinemas on April 21st, 2023, the comedy drama has grossed over 17 million naira. As a result, the movie now has the biggest opening weekend for a Nollywood film this year. According to reports, Maniac in 3rd place with 1.5 million. And that's all we have for you on the Spectrum TV Recap News. I am Francis Edit. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend.